Welcome one and all to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast, episode 231. I am your one and only host for this podcast, the Angry Raccoon, bringing you the last podcast of November 2023. And yes, we are fast approaching the end of the year. We have just about a month to go before it's Christmas, and of course it is the new year. And I'm honestly looking forward to 2023 coming to an end because it wasn't a great year. I think we can all agree on that. It has been kind of awful for the most part. But on more positive notes, I have kind of been catching up on some of the better stuff that has been released or that we've seen from 2023, mainly films and TV, although I would say films has kind of been lacking overall, but we'll get to that much later on. As I've been going back and watching certain films, certain TV series, getting ready for the best and the worst of 2023 podcast that we will be doing at the end of the year. So I'm kind of going to be very secretive over the next two podcasts in terms of the things I've done over the last 2 weeks. So yeah, look forward to that in the upcoming podcasts. So we've got a very interesting podcast as it seems everyone is kind of just trying to promote 2024 for kind of just dump all their new stuff and get people really hyped for films and such, which is fine. The end of the podcast usually gets quite frantic in terms of, trailers and teasers and things things they want you to be excited for, although, we'll see. The first trailer we have to talk about, one of three animated ones, is going to be for the Garfield movie. Not to be confused with Garfield the movie, which was released back in 2004 and was a live-action CGI hybrid film, and it wasn't very great. And Garfield, the titular character himself, is going to be voiced by none other than Super Mario himself, Chris Pratt. Yeah, he's back. Because everyone loved his work in the Super Mario Bros. Film, and that was, I think, the main takeaway from that film is that he was just the best thing about it. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, as, I wasn't too happy to hear or really see the fact that he is voicing another beloved character. I mean, is he just, really affordable, or does he just not know how to say no to things? I know that he's a big draw right now, he's a big name, obviously people are going to go see the Garfield film, or whether serious or not, because he's in it, but to quote The Simpsons, man, he's just not trying anymore. I'm sorry. His voice acting isn't great in this. He must have recorded this back-to-back with Super Mario Bros. Because it's so flat. It's honestly astounding how poor the direction and his performance is for the most part. I mean, for those of you who don't know Garfield or have never seen one of the animated shows or whatever, Garfield is an arsehole. He should sound more annoyed and nasally. This is just Chris Pratt playing Chris Pratt, which defeats the point of Garfield as a character, because he is essentially a very relatable one in that he has people can relate to his pessimism. It's something that is lost, I think, in this trailer, which is a little bit too happy-go-lucky for the most part. It is portraying Garfield as just someone who can occasionally be grumpy, as opposed to someone whose literal character is, I'm annoyed, I don't want to do anything, I'm lazy, which I think is a big misdirection. I mean, say what you want about the 2004 film, Bill Murray sounds like Garfield, or he sounded like Garfield. He was a better fit for the role of Garfield, or as we know him in the animation and in the comics. I sound more like Garfield than Chris Pratt for the most part, because once again, this is Chris Pratt not really trying at the end of the day, which is really annoying because when you look at the visuals and the aesthetic of the film, the animation is honestly beautiful. The world is playfully cartoony, just as it should be. This is based on a cartoon character, essentially. It's bright, it's colorful, and the designs are on point for the most part, although I do have my grievances with Garfield's design in this film. But I will say that Kitten Garfield is adorable. We don't often see the young version of Garfield. Is usually one of the other younger characters he has. I can't remember its name right now. But yeah, Garfield is near perfect in terms of design. It's just my biggest gripe with how he looks in this film specifically is that his pupils are just a little bit too close to each other in the center of his face, because he kind of has his eyes are basically together a bit like the Sonic characters, and I think the pupils are just too close to the point where he could basically have one eye, essentially. And obviously, based on how they're going to animate it when he looks left and right, it's going to look extra weird, like he kind of just has one eye that is presented as two dots, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just going on weird design conspiracy theories, let me know what you think. But yeah, it's odd because with this film, I was kind of hoping for a more interesting story other than, oh, look, it's my brother, my long lost brother, or I never knew I had a brother trope. I mean, I would have loved something exploring like why Garfield can talk, / why he talks to the audience, / why we can hear the inner monologues and thoughts of a cat. I thought that'd be very interesting, do some like fourth wall breaking stuff, like really make fun of the series and the character in that sense. I think that would be a really fun direction to take it in. A story about his mother. It is a bit odd how his mother lives in, I think it's like an Italian shop or a pizza shop or something like that. Or so not shop, but restaurant. And I think in the original comics, he was just adopted by, why am I forgetting the guy's name? His owner, John. I don't know why. That's pretty bad of me to forget John of all people. But yet she just remained there the whole time. It's a bit bizarre. I would have liked something where maybe he tracks down his family, sees his mom, sees an extended family. I thought that'd be pretty cool. Or maybe something focusing on Odie. He's a character that never really gets any attention. He's a fun, dumb, stupid dog, so why not? Although I will say Samuel Jackson as Vic, essentially a swole Garfield, is pretty funny, and I think Samuel Jackson, in terms of voice acting, will probably be the guy who saves this film, because I don't find Garfield relatable or funny at all in this. He's just a cat that can talk, essentially, which is a big shame, because once again, you've missed the point of Garfield. If you are honestly mad about this film, because I know people are, every time there's like a redesign or new adaptation, people get mad. I don't care that much. It's whatever. Sony, whoever, are going to do whatever they can because he's a popular IP and they can make money off of him. If you're really annoyed about this, blame Nickelodeon, because they currently hold the rights to Garfield. So they're going to do whatever they can with the rights, films, TV shows, put him in this, that, until they lose the rights. So be prepared for more Garfield over the next 6 years, maybe. I don't know how long the rights are going to last. Sticking with animation, we have our next film, a more originally animated film, and that is going to be Orion and the Dark. Now, this is essentially based on a storybook. I don't know the author, but it is unfortunately going to be a Netflix exclusive, which is the scariest thing about this film. It's a terrible fate for anything animated to feature on that website or service, because regardless of how well this film does, they will bury it to the point where no one will be able to ever see it, which is such a shame. But I think the concept is pretty cute. We have Orion, our main character. He essentially seems to be afraid of a lot of things, understandable things, but the one thing he is afraid of the most is the dark, to which the dark itself is going to essentially help him overcome said fears, or I guess the main one being the fear of the dark. I can see it setting up messages and kind of like handling its messages and really helping a lot of people, especially children, as the dark itself is a great metaphor for many of children's issues. Obviously Orion in the trailer talks about not being able to speak to girls, standing up to bullies, that kind of stuff. So I think it will be a really valuable film for a lot of people in their early life. I do really like the visual style. The characters look very 2D, as Orion's like very curly hair, it very rarely moves, and there are some playful design choices given the storybook, I guess, basing of the film, as well as just some really interesting, not really twists, but decisions they made in terms of like designing the world, with things that kind of a little bit off kilter, a little bit crooked. You kind of see the like a very faint pencil outline on certain things, like when someone turns on or off the light switch, you kind of see that there, which I think is kind of neat. Kind of gives it more of a visual flair, helps it stand out compared to slightly more of a generic CGI 3D looking films, which I think was a very good thing for them to do. Dark design is simple and perfect. I really like it. He's just like this weird cloaked guy with slightly glowing teeth and eyes. I think that's very strong. The other night entities, though, on the other hand, they're kind of hard to read. Like, I can't tell what the hell they're supposed to be. They're really weird. Like, I guess the green one is time, because his eyes roll and make numbers. But then there's one where she's like a robot, and there's another one where she looks like she's purple space. And I'm like, what is that meant to represent? I don't know. I think they kind of missed the mark on some of those designs. Maybe they'll make more clear, but they're not as defined or as interesting as, let's say, Rise of the Guardians, another DreamWorks film, which this film is a DreamWorks film, which is pretty cool, coming up pretty soon. It doesn't look that exciting for the most part. It just kind of seems to be mirroring A Christmas Carol to some extent with, oh yeah, I'm going to show you what could have been, in that kind of sense. And it's kind of odd. It doesn't fill me with excitement. It doesn't look that interesting. It doesn't look like anything's going to happen. And I'm just kind of trying to struggle to even just think about like what is even going on in this film to some extent. But Orion and the Dark do have some pretty good chemistry, I will say that. They're both very likable characters. You could very easily make them very annoying. And there's a lot of potential with this film, especially with Light essentially being like a dude bro who the Dark does not like. And Orion's fears kind of manifesting in very interesting visuals. You know, you see like a clown, the bully being giant, and other crazy things happening. I think if they do it well, it could go in a very interesting direction, which could hopefully boost up the film. Oh, and also the film is written by Charlie Kaufman, so that's pretty promising. If you don't know who Charlie Kaufman is, look him up, and then you'll realize that you do actually know who Charlie Kaufman is. Next trailer, we have Last Animated One. Unfortunately, another Netflix exclusive, but that's okay. I know how to download things. Is going to be for Pokemon Concierge. Concierge? Yeah, the Pokemon Concierge. I'm probably misspelling that. But this is essentially going to be a weird partnership between the Pokemon Company and I guess Netflix to make the first Pokemon, not themed, but the first Pokemon stop motion animated series, which is pretty cool. I honestly like the look of it. It just looks adorable. Essentially, we have our main character. I think her name is Haru. And she's essentially working in a Pokemon resort where I'm guessing people who look after, not necessarily look after Pokemon, but people who have Pokemon, they drop their Pokemon off and they have a holiday, relax, whether they be trainers, Pokemon who battle, that kind of stuff. And she's essentially there to make sure the Pokemon are happy and enjoying themselves. It's really sweet, honestly. Even if you're not into Pokemon, this series feels like it could be for anyone or just for people who like cute things, because I can just see tons of ladies just like awing and ahhing over certain scenes and all that, and he's so cute and all that, which is fine. It's so relaxed and down to earth. It's exactly what a lot of people need right now, and I think releasing it towards the end of the year was a smart move from Netflix because, you're kind of going to want something nice and chill to just kind of relax with for the most part. The felt/wool, I don't know which one it is, I kind of can't tell. The stop motion animation looks top tier from Dwarf Animation Studio, who I think have done a couple other felt things with other, pretty prominent characters, which is pretty cool. Their movements are somewhat natural. They're very fluid, though, I will say that much. They do kind of, at some points, look like moving toys, mainly the humans more than anything. But I would say when they... I guess when the humans walk, they walk like humans, while the Pokemon themselves, they move how they would in the game /anime / how you would think a Pokemon /monster that looked like that would move for the most part. So for example, Psyduck, who's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, he has like a sort of lumbering like waddle walk, which is obviously appropriate because he's a big boy. And speaking of Psyduck, I hope that he is one of the main characters /Pokemon that is going to be with Haru throughout the whole series, because once again, I love him. He is awesome. And the voice cast sounds pretty great. And I forget who it is. I'm just double checking my notes. Maria Takeuchi is going to be performing the main theme. Now, if you don't know who Maria is, just type her name in and you will know that you actually do know who she is, because she's a very prominent and famous Japanese singer. So that's pretty cool to see and I guess hear when the series comes out. But I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's as relaxed as I think it's going to be. Next trailer we have moving into horror. We have 2 horror films. The first one is going to be for Imaginary, the most amazing and awesome original title ever conceived. I mean, I've seen worse horror films and I've seen worse horror trailers, but we're clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel now with all these like generic named and looking horror films, like just based on things, not even necessarily scary things for the most part. Obviously last year we had Smile, a film about people smiling because that's scary. We also had that Winnie the Pooh film that came out because Disney no longer has the rights to Winnie the Pooh, and I think it's a public domain, so you can do any kind of Winnie the Pooh video game TV series now, which is awesome. Also The Boogeyman as well. Try harder. Like, the audience is getting bored at this point, especially when you look at this trailer, which, there's nothing special or interesting in this trailer. I was honestly just laughing at it for the most part, because the jokes just write themselves. Like, honestly, guys, is this Freddy Fazbear? Is what a lot of people are probably going to be saying and memeing when they see the trailer, and obviously that awful CGI teddy bear that just appears in the trailer. Like, oh my god, who are you? Like, that honestly probably wouldn't even scare like an 8-year-old for the most part, because it's so laughably bad at the end of the day. I just laughed. It's hilarious, and I'm linking this trailer in the description and download link because I think it's just hilarious. Obviously, people are going to lap this up, but it was especially egregious when you had like the experts start explaining imaginaries. Such a forced and like dumb name, for this threat or entity, demon, whatever they're trying to push it as once again. And can we like stop the exposition expert on the monster trope? Like, we've done it so many times, and it's such a boring moment in all these horror films where even if you are invested in it, for the film to just come to a grinding halt just for some guy or woman to just go, oh yeah, it's a monster, it feeds on the hearts of children, it dates back to the 16th century, where it's like, no one cares. People just either want to be creeped out or get scared or whatever. And besides, the unexplained is always scarier. Why are you going to ruin your whole film by going, oh, this is the monster, and this is how it works, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it's capable of doing? Like, stupid. Honestly, just stupid. And the last trailer we have, wrapping up this podcast, is going to be for Terrifier 3. What a bold approach, even for the series, as this trailer is apparently the opening of the film. Now, the opening did cause some controversy because it does depict a little girl waking up on presumably Christmas Day, seeing Santa putting presents down, only for it to be revealed that it is the serial killer, Art the Clown. To which we kind of get the title card, and then we see Art the Clown enjoying himself with blood splayed all over the wall. Now, the controversy around this trailer is stupid, because we don't have the full context. We don't know that Art killed this girl. We don't know if this is even real. This could be a dream or a nightmare that some character is having. And your bitching played right into their hands because it got more people's attention. If you don't like it, shut up. The film is not for you. And I understand what people might say. They may say, oh, well, Raccoon, that's a bit of a contradiction because you've just spent this whole podcast saying how you don't like this thing or technically bitching about certain films. And yeah, I've expressed my opinion, but here's the thing. I haven't gone onto every single social media screaming and shouting my opinions about this film and telling people that they shouldn't watch it, or if they do watch it, that they're a bad person. I don't care what you watch. Watch what you want to watch. If you end up watching the film Imaginary and you end up really liking it, good for you. I'm really happy that you found something you enjoyed and it was worth your time. I could give two shits about that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I'm not one of these crybabies online who's going to get upset about a piece of fiction. Yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. Fiction. It ain't that serious. But yeah. What makes Art the Clown so scary? For those of you who don't know, this is obviously based on a series of films focusing on Art the Clown, a very intimidating villain. And unlike so many villains today, which you see unfortunately in a lot of films where they try and make them very grey as opposed to just black or white, where they're like, oh no, the villain's misunderstood, oh he only did this because of this, he's actually a good guy. That's all rubbish. What makes him terrifying is the fact that he is just evil. Like, he'll kill you if he sees you. I mean, he may mess with you, but, just you locking eyes with him or him seeing you or you seeing him, yeah, that's it, you're done. Very few people are going to get away from Art the Clown because he does not stop. His goal is to hurt and kill people, and he will achieve it. And that's what is terrifying about him. He doesn't talk, neither. He doesn't say a single word, and his grin, smile, grimace, whatever, is creepy as hell. No one wants to see that. I mean, yeah. I mean, he is just a perfect definition of a slasher killer, and he makes a lot of clown characters and a lot of just horror icons, so to speak, look bad. He's one of the best, in my opinion, and one of the simplest in terms of like looks and design. This is awesome. This whole scene, I think, whether it's a segment or something they originally shot for the film, I don't know, but it was really cool. I thought it was great. It's very festive with like a playfully dark twist, and I honestly can't wait for the film. I have the first two Terrifier films, and I am actually going to watch them pretty much as soon as this podcast ends, because I really want to catch up in time for the third one. So I'll probably talk about those on the next episode. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this podcast for the most part. As it is November, we are still going back. We're being nostalgic. We are remembering. So we have the video of the episode, which is nostalgic to some extent and a lot of extent. And that is going to be a video titled 06/19/2002. That's all I'm going to say about this video. Go watch it. It has a lot of relevancy in regards to this podcast, and go watch all of their other videos in order to catch up in time for said thing that I have just talked about on the podcast. But yeah, we only have one more regular podcast to do before the end of the year Best of the Worst podcast. So get ready, get hyped for that, because I'm gearing up, because it is usually a lot of work. And I'm somewhat dreading it to some extent, but that's more just the editing for the most part. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Any support on this video on the channel is much appreciated and welcomed. And yeah, I guess I'll end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon, and I will see you on the next podcast.